Welcome to Reading Fluency among third grade students through Fluency Development Lessons. My name is Andrea Bouma. I am a student at the Sharon Walker School of Education at Morningside University, and I've been teaching third grade for 16 years. The problem with low reading fluency in third grade is a hurdle I face every year as a teacher. Each year, students enter my classroom, and many of them struggle to read fluently. The question I kept asking myself was, what's missing? This is not just a localized problem. A third of fourth grade students scored in the below basic group on the 2018 National Assessment of Educational Progress Oral Reading Fluency Assessment. Furthermore, students who are not proficient in reading by the end of third grade may continue to struggle with reading. Lack of foundational skills like word work and reading fluency may be the cause of this struggle for students. This problem leads us to the purpose of this study, which was to investigate the effectiveness of Rosinski's Fluency Development Lesson Intervention for third grade students in America. The impact of this problem is staggering. 16% of students not reading proficiently may not graduate high school if they do not gain this proficiency in reading by the end of third grade. 31% of seniors who do not graduate from high school use drugs. Only 43% of high school graduates demonstrated a level of knowledge that would enable their achievement in college. Past interventions offer some insight into what has been tried to improve reading fluency. Lyrics to Learn is an online curriculum application to increase reading fluency. It integrates reading, music, repeated reading, and immediate feedback. It's designed to increase fluency through repeated rhyme and rhythm. Students who used the program with fidelity outperformed their counterparts, a limitation being that not all teachers implemented the program with fidelity. Many elementary teachers are familiar with Read Naturally. It's another common intervention designed to increase reading fluency. It includes modeling, repeated reading, and progress monitoring. In this study, two students completed a cold read, listened to, and read with an audio recording of the passage multiple times, and performed a hot read. Both students increased their words per minute from cold to hot read. More importantly, both students increased their words per minute from cold read to cold read, limitation being a low number of participants. Another study involving parent tutoring was also examined. This study involved 3 second grade students who qualified for the intervention through receiving Title I services. This was an A-B design. In the A phase, students were unaware of the timing, as opposed to the B phase, students were aware of the timing. Students needed to be aware of the timing and provided feedback. Students read more words per minute when they were aware of being timed, and the limitation was the amount of time they had for the study, the low participant number, and it was noted by the researchers that the attitude of the participants played a role in their score that day. The parent tutoring intervention is another study involving including parent tutoring. This study involved 3 second grade students who qualified for the intervention through receiving Title I services. The students were reading below 55 words per minute and identified at risk by DIBELS. Parents were trained, provided materials for repeated reading and modeling and error correction. Parents implemented this intervention 3 times per week with documentation. All students increased their words per minute, and parents reported an ease of implementation. Limitation, again, is the sample size. Just a reminder that the purpose of this study was to investigate the effectiveness of Timothy Rosinski's 2017 Fluency Development Lesson Intervention that includes modeling, repeated reading, feedback, word building, reading at home for third grade students. This study fills some of the identified gaps in research, such as very few of the studies focused on third grade or below, and even fewer studies included larger sample sizes. There were limited studies that included word study or word building, and no studies were found that included the important components of fluency like phrasing, pace, fluency, volume, and expression. This is a quantitative A-B design. Students were tested using DIBELS at baseline, after phase 1, and after phase 2. During the intervention period, or phase 2, students listened to reading modeled to them fluently, of course. They used a weekly passage to practice reading with a partner and independently, and used this passage for word building. Students were taught and used a fluency rubric to further understand fluency and provide feedback to their peers. This is a sample text that students read during the intervention phase. Words were chosen from this passage for word building. This is the fluency rubric students used. It provided students with a self-check on their own fluency, as well as provided them the language to use with peers for feedback as well. This is an example of word building used from the words were taken from the Titanic text to build this. The highlighted words were chosen from the text and built upon. Students read and wrote these words in text throughout the week. The participants were 18 third grade students. Every student was represented in the study. The students or participants were 8 to 9 years old, 8 female, 10 male. 11% received free or reduced lunch. 11% had an IEP, an individualized education plan. 22% received Title I reading support. All documentation was kept in a password-protected Google document, and all names were removed for confidentiality. DIBELS was used as the assessment for the 3 different time periods. DIBELS is the dynamic indicators of basic literacy skills. The same assessment was used, as I said, at the baseline, after phase 1, and after phase 2 to ensure valid results. And the fluency rubric was available for students. This is an example of the student scoring sheet. Errors or omissions were subtracted from the total word read in 1 minute to calculate the total words correct. ReadyGen and Words Their Way curriculum was consistent throughout the study. During ReadyGen, students practiced specifically rereading after an error, finding text evidence, and opinion writing. During Words Their Way instruction, students specifically practiced art-controlled vowel patterns, syllable patterns, and students had a weekly grade level reading passage to practice rereading and word building. Again, this study was a quantitative single subject A-B design. The dependent variable was the fluency reading rate. The independent variable was fluency development lessons. The DIBELS assessment was given at baseline, and then at phase 1, normal instruction was given for 3 weeks, and then another DIBELS assessment. Phase 2, or the treatment phase, began, which was normal instruction and the added fluency development lessons intervention, and then again the DIBELS assessment. A paired samples t-test was conducted to analyze the difference between the baseline data and the end of phase 1, and to analyze the data between the end of phase 1 and the end of phase 2. All students were assessed at each phase. The results did not show a significant difference between the baseline and after phase 1 data. The effect size shows a small effect. However, the results did indicate a significant difference between the end of phase 1 and after phase 2, and the effect size shows a large effect. These results further indicate that the reading intervention during phase 2 had significantly better reading fluency scores than normal reading instruction during phase 1. This data is more easily interpreted through tables. This bar graph illustrates how students scored similarly from baseline to after phase 1. You can see the first 2 bars are at the same level. As a reminder, this was during the regular instruction. It also shows the increase from the end of phase 1 to the end of phase 2. This was the intervention phase, and again, the last bar illustrates a slight increase in words per minute. Again, the results did not show a significant data difference between the baseline and after the phase 1 data. Results do show a statistically significant difference between the end of phase 1 and the end of phase 2. The effect size shows a large effect. Overall, finding confirmed higher scores from phase 2 intervention period than from the baseline to phase 1. Because it was found that there was no significant difference between the baseline and after phase 1, but statistically significant results were found from the end of phase 1 to the end of phase 2, these findings suggest that the reading intervention did increase students' reading fluency. Therefore, the hypothesis that third grade students who received fluency development lessons in addition to general reading instruction would increase their words per minute score 2 or more words each week for 3 weeks, compared to receiving only normal general reading instruction for 3 weeks, was supported. The overarching implication for educators is that intensive reading fluency instruction that includes modeling, reading, rereading, and word building can improve reading fluency more than general reading instruction alone. Although the components of reading fluency, such as attention to expression, phrasing, rate, smoothness, and volume, assisted in the positive gains in words per minute, I feel strongly that the word building was a critical component to the success of this intervention. The implications of this study for parents is the importance of reading at home. Studies show the more students read, the better readers they become. Students need to focus on the foundational skills of reading fluency. Adding to their word knowledge and practicing reading with the important components of fluency in mind will increase reading fluency. Limitations include time. There were only 3 weeks for each phase. Sample size. This was only one class of 18 students. Future research could support further research on the support of parents at home, the rereading or reading at home, and specifically targeting students at risk. I targeted my whole class for this study. However, this could be very beneficial for just targeting students at risk for not reading fluently by the end of 3rd grade. And another concern was maybe the effectiveness of the ReadyGen curriculum, since students didn't show any progress during from baseline to the end of phase 1. That's really something that stood out. And the rest are my references. Thank you.